Well, the new plan is Batista's going to face Mr. Kennedy. Kennedy had just lost to Matt Hardy on last week's SmackDown. Obviously, we probably wouldn't have done that had we known this was going to be the case, but we didn't know. And I'm excited for Mr. Kennedy, but boy, I can't help but feel bad for Mark Henry. I mean, this guy has had what Wade Keller called an unremarkable WWE career, but everyone agrees this is the worst possible timing, maybe the worst worst timed injury in any era of wrestling. Like, this guy is clicking on all cylinders. He's getting strong promos. He's positioned as a killer heel. He's working with top guys. He's about to be on a big time pay-per-view, and it's all gone.
Boom.
Man, that's just fucking horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely sucks because your trajectory, man, is to the moon, and now here you are, and all of a sudden you're back on Earth, and you're not just back on Earth, you're back on Earth laying on your back. So it's horrible timing, and it's one of those situations where as you get into it and go, okay, I'm going to make the best of this. I'm going to take this time to get the best shape of my life. Kind of hard to do when you're one-legged, but it has been done. And there, you've got to look at the bright side in that situation as a talent. As a company, you got to move forward, and you have to forge on, and you have to do the best you can to provide the absolute best attractions that you can to get people to come out and support the product and see their live events, pay-per-view, and watch the TV show.
We got to talk a little bit about a house show that happens in this era, because it just jumps off the page at me. We're running it in Houston. It's a SmackDown house show. It's sold out. 18,000 folks here at the Toyota Center. This is a non-televised event. To be clear, not a pay-per-view, not a Raw, not a SmackDown, just a house show. But they had been running it pretty hard in the market. Raw, SmackDown, USA, and UPN. Why do you think this house show in particular popped off? And was it because you were the local promoter and made sure?
Because there's Houston.
There you go.
Because they knew I was going to be there.
And you're a big draw everywhere in the world. Everybody knows that.
Huge draw. Big draw. I used to be over,
You still are.
Okay.
What do you think of, I mean, serious business, how do you explain an anomaly like that, where normally in the market on a house show, man, they're drawing a fraction of that, and then this one hit? Is it just a stronger marketing effort locally, or is there something else at play, do you think?
Man, I just think it was timing. I really couldn't tell you. There are those you can have the same attraction in every market and have your markets range from, the major markets to your B towns to your C towns, have the same attraction, and it will draw differently in every single one. I think this was just, the right time, right place, and the right combination of everything. The market was hungry for live action.
Oh, man, I'm hungry to talk about the next. I mean, you want to talk about a snake bit pay-per-view. Here we go. Dave Meltzer wrote this. Just before the Great American Bash pay-per-view, the SmackDown side, already decimated by injuries to JBL, Mark Henry, and the sabbatical of Chris Benoit for a number of reasons, including surgery, as well as Kurt Angle and Randy Orton being moved to ECW and Raw respectively, saw the roster decimated by a variety of issues. Bobby Lashley, who's 30, and Great Khali, who's 33, were both diagnosed with liver problems and have been removed from the wrestling roster for the time being. So they're both out of the pay-per-view. And McMahon makes the call on July 22nd to pull Great Khali out of this match with Undertaker. Big Show is going to step in for him. This is pretty crazy. I mean, there's a concern that maybe these guys' liver enzymes are so out of whack that perhaps this might be a long-term thing. Now, we know, thankfully, that wound up not being the case. But goodness gracious, this is out of left field where we just don't hear about this sort of thing very often. What do you remember about this set of circumstances?
Yeah, it just was, man, it was a freak deal. And it was a situation, where you you're there. And again, man, bless their hearts and their injuries and everything. But, this was unexpected. This was something that you can't point to and say, okay, well, this happened in a match or whatever. They were in pretty dire straits from the standpoint of doctors' opinions and the unknown. And that's the biggest thing about doctors, is there's so much unknown usually whenever you're dealing with an injury or sickness or illness that they can't explain right now. And, I've dealt with it for a long time with my wife, and it's called a medical practice for a reason. They're practicing, folks. Okay. They don't always have all the answers, but their education helps them to diagnose and to help treat to the best of their education. And they're practicing medicine. So they're going to practice this. They're going to try this on you. Hopefully, if this helps, it may help the next person. Maybe it doesn't help you. Well, maybe it will help the next person or maybe not. It's practice. So you had a lot of doctors that just didn't know what the hell was going on with these guys at the time. And you've got to do your best to diagnose and treat and hope for the best.
We got to talk about, the concern here is that they don't want this to become some sort of a hepatitis outbreak. And now obviously neither one of these guys have that, but whenever you start to hear liver stuff, you start to get nervous, like, oh man, what the hell's going on? But there's some speculation in the newsletters that all this new testing as a part of the wellness policy and the way that thing has continued to evolve since Eddie Guerrero has brought all this stuff on the radar, where previously without the testing, we might not have known. So it's certainly a great positive for the well-being of the performers and the human beings and all that. But man, creatively, this has got to throw you for a heck of a loop, because we weren't doing this type of testing a few years ago. And now that we are, thankfully, these guys can get healthy. But at the same time, it's like, damn nation, when it rains, it pours creatively, right?
Double-edged sword, man, because you want all of your athletes to be healthy and be performing at peak performance. The reality of the situation is they're human beings and they're going to get injured. There are going to be things that come up that if we weren't doing the type of testing and we didn't have the protocols put into place, that we wouldn't discover a lot of things. The business grew and we've gotten a lot better as years have gone on. I go back to the 70s. You had a grumpy old doctor that was only there for his $25 payday to take the guy's blood pressure. And if it was high, they would say, oh yeah, I just got done working out, running. I'll go, oh, okay, right down. They're cleared, and the state commissions there take their 5%. They, did nothing for the talent. But that was also based on promoters looking at, I got to protect my attraction. And so the guy's got high blood pressure. I can put him in and he'll be fine. He's done this before, and maybe he doesn't have to work as hard. Man, that whole criteria, that whole mindset has changed, looking after the well-being and the health of your talent, your athletes, and taking care of them, because especially from the older generation, they're going to look at, man, just take me up. I want to go. Put me in, coach. And they'll do whatever it takes. Not always the right things, doing whatever it takes to get back in. So it's a double-edged sword, but I think that it's the right call to do all of the testing and to do everything that you can so that your talent are at best, and that there isn't some freak thing going on in their body that needs to be addressed, and we can catch it hopefully in its infancies and go on again. But it's practice, and things are going to happen, good and bad.